Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jackie Thornton with LeadingAge Georgia and GATSA. I'd like to thank the leadership team of GATSA, Ned Morgans and Georgia Gunter, for joining us, along with all the other GATSA representatives across our state. This information is being recorded, so we ask that you will hold your questions until the end when the question and answer period begins. In order to mute your line, you can press *6, to unmute, *7. Thanks so much for joining us. Now we're ready to get started. I just want to remind everyone, if you need information or want to actually pick up the recorded version of this at a later time to share with others in your network or your staff, you can go to leadingagega.org and you can click on the For Members Only link that's on our homepage to access this webinar through ReadyTalk and or SharePoint. Today we have with us two really dynamic speakers. I'm happy to say that we are able to bring to you the GlynnDevins duo, Randy Eilts. He's the Vice President of Public Relations, and he's responsible for overseeing the development and implementation of public relations and social media strategies for GlynnDevins clients. He has over 30 years of experience in the communications industry, and Randy has extensive background in television news reporting and strategic communications planning for a variety of industries, ranging from senior living communities, healthcare, construction, restaurants, community foundations. I believe he's been engaged in every organization, including nonprofits, to name a few. I'd like to also introduce his partner, Travis Bridges. He has also worked with both business-to-consumer and business-to-business accounts at GlynnDevins, including communities that are operational, new development, both nonprofit and for-profit. He has over 10 years of experience, and without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to these two gentlemen who give us their valued consultation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jackie, for the introduction. We certainly appreciate it. When Walter reached out to us to do a presentation today, he mentioned that one of the things that might really help folks with this organization is to talk about basic marketing and public relations techniques for those folks who offer adult day services. So we were happy to put this presentation together, and hopefully those participants who are listening in today will be able to find something helpful. Just a quick little snapshot about GlynnDevins. We're a marketing and advertising agency that specializes in the field of senior living and work with over 160-some client communities in about 38 states, and those range from everything from CCRCs, independent living, assisted living, memory support, and that sort of thing. So we have a variety of different types of communities that we work with. You did kind of introduce us, but here's a quick photo snapshot so you know who you're listening to today. And as I mentioned, Travis Bridges is joining us also today. So the presentation is really going to offer some objectives in three different areas. One is to learn how to reach out to adult children and caregivers. Those are the folks who, more than likely, as adult day services providers, that you are in contact with on a regular basis, so we'll offer some techniques on how you can reach out with them. And then we're going to also talk a little bit more about determining how you can leverage your local and internal resources to help build a referral program, because there's nothing better than word of mouth and letting people know about the program that you offer. And then lastly, we're going to help you discover some ways that you can attain additional awareness through media relations. Being on the PR side myself, I always like to think that there's a good story to tell. Regardless of the organization, it's just a matter of uncovering that story and getting someone to write about your organization and what's going on. And to kind of kick things off, then I'm going to turn it over to Travis.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. So the The first 2 points or objectives Randy spoke to of understanding the avenues to reach adult children and caregivers, as well as leveraging local and internal resources to build your referral programs, we found that those really go hand in hand. First comes the idea of finding the best way to reach your audience, and we know who that is. That's your professionals, like Randy said, and your adult child influencers. These are going to be the professionals that can fall under a number of different categories, from caregivers to financial advisors. The adult children is important, obviously, because a lot of times in these scenarios, they're the ones that are heavily involved in the decision-making process. So these are the audiences you really want to build and evolve relationships with, which will help lead to new lead development and could also lead to building a robust referral program or simply an advocate for your service that can later be used for testimonial pieces. But how do we reach caregivers, professionals, and ACIs? And we find it's a combination between education and involvement. One of the biggest hurdles we see with adult day services is that it's not just that they exist and they're in your own backyard, but it's what they provide, how they differentiate from retirement communities or, the nursing homes in the neighborhood, or communicating an understanding of what the program has to offer. Let's first touch on the importance of education. These are 4 areas we find really important. They're often subjects that when someone is seeking out an adult day service, they're looking for answers on, or they're things that they don't realize they need answers on, and we should be communicating to them. And one of those examples is detecting early symptoms. There's a lot of times people don't realize that leaving a senior at home, even if it's at the earliest stages of Alzheimer's or any other mental or physical illness, it can actually do more harm than good, even if they're not currently endangering themselves. And it's important to tackle these issues at the earliest stages and helping them understand that adult day services, even a few hours a week, can help assist and monitor their health during that period. Another area is educating the audience on the power of social interaction and how it helps bring a sense of purpose to seniors' lives and aid in their wellness. And that goes along with avoiding leaving them at home, even if it's at the earliest stages. Just that social interaction they get from attending the center or the service can really do wonders for their wellness. And you can leverage people that currently are in your program and their families and seniors that have attended to help get that message out and use those testimonials in your collateral, because nothing does more to help back up what you're saying than those people that have actually lived it. And then obviously you want to speak to the programs that are offered. You want to educate them on the array of activities that take place on a daily basis and really position it as a place where seniors are able to thrive and be active. And then finally, there's a lot of people that don't understand the financials of something like adult day service. You have your communities that have entrance fees and monthly service fees and things like that. And then you have different programs that, they feel like they're committed to, a week's worth, even if they just attend a couple days. So if you have a adult day service that has the flexibility to bill by the hour or specific days or specific day rates versus weekend rates if you offer weekend availability, those are all great things to communicate, because a lot of times people may think, well, I really only need this service for a couple days out of the week. They may not realize that those sorts of flexibilities exist. And all of this is great. It's good information to make sure we're communicating, but how do we get the message out there to the public? First is using, obviously, the power of digital media. As we've discussed, one of the primary targets is your ACIs, your adult children influencers, and they're obviously a very digital savvy audience. We all know that. But using paid search campaigns, you can use keywords and geo-targeting to help attract relevant traffic to your website. They can become highly engaged there. Your website is essentially your 24/7-hour storefront where they're able to get a lot of content and really educate themselves without feeling like they're being pushed to make decisions. And if you have a strong paid search campaign where you're actually getting that qualified lead to your site, make it easy for them to convert and engage with you. And then also, obviously, online display works in somewhat the same way. It's a great way to have a focus on hyper-local, geo-targeted areas. It can include radius targeting, so you're not going outside of your area of someone that wouldn't consider something like an adult-based service program. You can also use, demographic and local interest targeting to make these campaigns even more powerful and the retargeting efforts for those that may have visited your site but never converted on, a form to fill out or to participate in something. So it's a great way to stay top of mind. Those are two very, usually inexpensive ways, but a way where if you're investing some of your marketing dollars and you're limited, you can be highly targeted and you're getting in front of people that fit the criteria of your audience as opposed to potentially getting your message out there to someone that doesn't really relate to it. And then obviously, when you're using something like a paid search campaign, an online display, you want to make sure you're taking them somewhere where it's easy to get the information that they're looking for. A landing page is a great way to do this. We hate to see when someone's using an online display and they take them to your home page or something like that, because typically maybe they've already seen it, or usually that's not where a wealth of the knowledge lives that you could offer them. So having a very strong landing page built out where there's also a form included so they can get quick, easy information, what they're looking for, and then an opportunity to convert those prospects into leads all in one spot is a great approach to that. And don't forget that traditional media isn't dead. I know we live in a digital world, but this is a form of marketing where you can really tell your story. When we're looking at marketing budgets, a lot of times people have decisions to make. Do we go and do we do print? Do we do direct mail? Do we do TV? Do we do radio? Some of those areas are great, and it's always great to have a strong marketing mix if you can do it. The one thing is some of those areas somewhat limit what you're able to do. A direct mail piece gives you much more real estate to work with than, say, a quarter-page ad to talk about your community and the programs you offer. So it's a great way to really showcase your program and to be able to speak more to it. And direct mail can actually be really highly targeted, much like digital. Sometimes there's a misconception out there that, we receive so much mail from so many big box stores and things like that, we think everyone on the block is getting the same mail. That wouldn't really make sense for an industry like us. So, we have to take a look at who we're mailing to in a much more strategic way, and you're able to do that. You can slice and dice the data however you'd like. We work with a number of different brokers to make sure we're as highly targeted as possible. And those examples could be, you may say, I only want to mail to adult children ages 45 to 64 that live within 25 miles of your community. You can do that. And so when you're investing in direct mail, at least you're putting yourself in a position for success because you're not, spending money on pieces that are hitting households that have no connection or live outside your area. You're able to get targeted. You could drill down even further if you'd like, where you could say, we're kind of in a rural area. We need to go a little further out than 25 miles. Maybe you say, let's look at adult children that live 100-mile radius from the community, but they have a senior parent that lives within 25 miles because they can't always be there to take care of or help them with their medication. We know the parent lives close to us. The child lives further out. That could be a really good target. You could even look at seniors themselves and say ages 70 plus where one has self-reported an ailment at home. There's all these different ways you can slice and dice that data to where you're investing your dollars in direct mail, but you're investing in a way that's just as targeted as the same sort of approach you're doing with digital where you're doing the geo-targeting and the demographic. You can do that same thing. These tactics do a great job of educating the audience. But, besides awareness and education, how else can we leverage something like, an online display ad or a direct mail piece to really engage with them? It's one thing to mail out a brochure or a direct mail piece, but ultimately you want to meet and speak with these people. So one thing we always talk with different communities about is, look at hosting events so that you're positioning yourself as a thought leader in the industry and against your competition. One that shows you have a passion for what you do and one where you can build relationships with your audience. With this particular type of industry and adult day services, it's important to have a mix. You can have events during the day, but it's important to be flexible and offer events in the evening. A lot of our audience, being professionals and ACIs, they have 9 to 5s as well. So sometimes it's not as flexible to get out for a 1 o'clock event or a 10:30 event. One of the first things we would recommend is hosting some sort of speaker or panel event. You could bring in a speaker if you don't have one in-house that could speak to memory care or safety at home, caregiver burnout, financial planning. The list goes on and on. You could also do something lighter like open houses that we have up there. There's different ways we've seen this executed where they treat it almost like a dine and dash, where they don't want to keep you too long, but you can take dinner to go. So you get on site, you get to meet with them. They're just off work. They want to visit, but they can't stay there all night. That's a great way to do it. Or you could have small bites, do almost like a happy hour meet and greet type thing to where you can get them on site. I think we skipped a little. There we go. So hosting your events on site, getting your message out there, educating the community, that's all great. It's all very necessary, but it isn't quite enough. We also have to follow up with professionals in person. Physically getting out in the community is vital to the success of your program. Set a meeting with the director at your local hospital, discuss your program, assessments. You could offer them and their caregivers, where you could follow up with the family members and help take some of that off their plate. Is a great way to start. It's really good to take that initiative, reaching out to local associations. Every city has an Alzheimer's association you could reach out to. Church leaders are great. Financial advisors are great. Set up these meetings in your community with the heads of these different clinics or whomever you see fit, and get to know them. Let them get to know your program and what you offer. Leave behind collateral, leave behind, brochures or things that have business reply cards that they could hand to their clients or their patients that then they could return and reach back out to the community. But, you don't want to stop just with the meetings with the heads of these different areas. It's great to make these connections, but you want to get involved beyond the meetings and with the staff members. So we also encourage not only having events on site, but have events off site, at a neutral place where, go where your audience is. Don't always request that they come to you. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, but it's extremely important. Hold an arts and crafts night at a local library or a senior center. You could go and participate at support groups off site, even if you have them on site. Partner with physicians. Some communities have partnered with physicians where they do free blood pressure readings at their community, and that's a great way to get people in because, like I said earlier, one of the things is overcoming that perception. If you give them a reason or a valuable reason to come to your community, you could shift that focus or that thought of what your community was. And then, getting to know your local recreation and park association to promote, they have a ton of different programs and activities. You could partner with them at their different locations, or you could bring some of those in-house. Through all of these different outlets, you begin to develop meaningful relationships with the people that work there, but also the families that attend these different areas, the senior centers, the libraries, the clinics. It shows good faith that you're not constantly just trying to sell them on going to your community, but you're trying to sell them on the fact that you care and you want to help. You can bring your therapies, your wellness programs, your activities to them. Let them know that this is what it's like every day at your adult day service. So, while they enjoy doing these activities at the library or the senior center, they can come and meet new people at your center as well. Take one day, come by and see. I spoke with one individual actually the other day. They actually have a pool at their location, so they were able to work with their parks district to offer aquatic therapy at their community and promote it through the Parks Association, which got them a lot of new people that may have never went and checked it out because they didn't realize that's the sort of stuff that was available to them at these centers. Other programs may center around fitness or diet. Ultimately getting them on the site where they can see the environment is critical, but to overcome that perception, sometimes it first takes you going off-site to make sure you can earn that trust and help them see what you're capable of doing, and it's a place where they can grow and continue to be active and like I said before, have a purpose throughout the day and not just sit at home. So it's really, as we say, it's about first we have to educate them, let them know what you truly do, what you truly offer, and then you have to get involved, whether it's on-site or off-site. And as you do all these different things in the community, meet with these different groups, offer these different programs, get them on-site, then obviously public relations is a great way to leverage, all those different things you do, and Randy can speak to that perspective.
All right. Thanks, Travis. PR is really an important part of how you can generate additional awareness that goes in conjunction with your marketing efforts. And, one of the first steps on that, if you don't do this already, And I know oftentimes people say, yeah, we reach out to the media, but they never cover us, or we just don't have the time to do it. But it's something that you should really think about in your mix of communicating to the general public. First and foremost, you have to know the media. And that means developing a list of who are those reporters and editors in your area that may cover healthcare issues or feature stories and that sort of thing, and start putting a list together and then determining what kind of stories do we want to tell them. The educational component that Travis was talking about a little bit earlier about helping detect early symptoms, or why it's important for older adults to remain socially active, or talking about the various programs that are offered. Those are all kinds of story ideas that you can compile and put together and reach out to the media on a regular basis with. And then it's just a matter of determining when. So in September, I'm going to pitch this story to the media, and in October, I'm going to do this story, and in November, I'm going to pitch this story. It's all about really getting on the radar screen of these editors and reporters, and then giving them a steady drumbeat of material that they could potentially work with. The one thing that you will notice is that media is not what it used to be. It used to be TV, radio, and newspaper. And clearly, as you all know now, consumers find their news and information in a lot of different areas. It's not only the main three from years ago, but now we've got the internet, and we have our smartphones, and we have Facebook and YouTube and Pinterest and Instagram. These are all places where you could potentially tell your story and get your news and stories out there. So, you got to think about what is your media compass and how can you leverage that through print and broadcast and web and social media, and who knows what else is out there, because times are changing, and just when you think you've got everything mastered, there's something new that comes along to think about. So think of yourself as a new kind of salesman. I am here to develop all of these different story ideas, and now I'm going to go out there and let the media know about it. And here's just one idea, which I'm sure you are all already aware of, but in the not too very distant future here, September 13th through 19th is National Adult Services Week. That's a great little hook for you to potentially get some stories or coverage of the programs that you offer in a relatively short turnaround time frame, if you could put something together, or if you don't already have something planned. And so then what do the media look for when you are telling a story? They're looking for something that's unique, something that's interesting, something that's maybe a bit unusual. First and foremost, I don't think a lot of people in the media know a whole heck of a lot about adult day services. And so just the education component of that alone is something worthwhile in telling the story. And if they've, once you've found that contact, that reporter who kind of bites and says, yeah, I'm interested in learning more, help influence that message. And what I mean by that is give them a visual. If they come out to cover your story, what is it they're going to see? What are they going to hear? Who can you offer for an interview? Make it as tempting as possible to say, for them to say, yep, we're going to come out and we're going to cover that story. And then in the meantime, while you're waiting for them, don't wait for them to come out. You may pitch your own story and wait for the media to want to come and cover it. But in the meantime, through your social channels, you can already tell your story on your own, and people are looking for it. If you have a Facebook page, give them a little taste of what life is like at your adult day services location, and what is it that those participants do on a daily basis? What's their lifestyle like on a daily basis? And at the same time, you could utilize testimonials from their adult children or their caregiver to talk a little bit more about how this provides them a respite on a daily basis, or it provides them peace of mind, and that more and more adults are finding themselves in this sandwich generation of, I've got my own family to care for, but yet I've got mom or dad, or maybe even both of them to care for. Great opportunity to tell those stories on Facebook, or even putting together a short little video to help tell that story as well. If you have an event for the National Adult Day Services Week, utilize your Facebook page or Instagram, or if you have those kinds of social channels, to promote your activity as well. Let them know that, hey, we're going to have an open house on Wednesday, September 16th, or whatever day that is. I think it's the 16th. And that we're offering an opportunity for people to come in and learn more about our organization. And Facebook is a great way to promote that. And if you want to toss in a little bit more, as Travis was talking about targeting via direct mail, Facebook allows you through ads or sponsored posts to target your audience also. And so for a relatively inexpensive amount, you can use $50 to promote your event on Facebook through an ad that's very easy to create, and you can hone in on a zone around your particular zip code that says, I only want to target this to 45 plus, and I want them to be college educated, and I want them to be within 12 miles or whatever radius you want for that, and then that ad will show up, or that sponsored post will show up on their Facebook. It's all about controlling your own channels. Your owned media is exactly what we were just talking about with Facebook, with YouTube or Instagram, or even LinkedIn would be a great opportunity, because that's where those professionals are. And if you had a LinkedIn page for your community, you would be able to kind of get your message out there in front of those busy business professionals who don't have time necessarily to drop by, but they can learn more about you. Earned media is exactly what that says. It's influencing those reporters and editors to come out and cover you. You've earned their coverage for their publications or their broadcast. Paid media, exactly what it is. That's paying for that direct mail or that ads in the newspapers, or ads on television or on radio. So the combined focus of all three of those is really a good way to kind of get that message out there through marketing and PR. At the heart of every good story is people, and clearly Adult Day Services has people. You have volunteers that come in to help. You have those family members that come in and day out and drop off their loved one, and then you have that loved one. And it's finding those stories about how this works for those families that really could make a great feature article in some form or fashion. And that's what's worth reading about. We learn over and over again that those human interest stories are what gets the attention and creates the most awareness. And, those adult children are out there trolling online looking for news stories that they're going to read and learn from. Just one quick example, a community that we work with out in New Jersey has a gentleman by the name of Henry who helps residents at a particular community learn more about utilizing computers and working on iPads and that sort of thing. We dubbed him iHenry. It was just enough to get the attention of reporters and editors out there. We shared the story on Facebook. We got a TV station from New York to come out and do the story, and a local newspaper came out to do the story also. So if you can put an interesting spin to a story you find, another way to help create awareness for you all. If you have somebody in your communities or in your programs that has come and they've kind of blossomed while they're there at the Adult Day Services and have turned into a budding artist, maybe that's a cool story to share, or whatever group activities you have going. Again, it's thinking of the unusual or the different that you have, and then telling that story and selling it to the editors and reporters. We know that more and more older adults are going online to find those stories, and that's why it's really important also that as you're thinking about how you're going to use your paid, owned, and earned media, those social channels are really important, because as people do research, they're going to find those stories online as well. So some key questions to think about as you are thinking of a PR program for yourselves or enhancing what you already do. What unique events do you have? What makes them stand out? What are those unique people that you have in there? what staff member has a unique story to tell, or what volunteer goes above and beyond. And think visually. Media loves photos, they love video, and so always, put yourself in a situation. If I was at home opening the newspaper, or if I was online, what story is going to get my attention? So think outside of the box. Here's one other quick example for you, and that is, the Gangnam style dancing from a couple of years back. We had a community where residents wanted to learn how to Gangnam style dance. Just happened to be at the same time it was a YouTube sensation. So we pitched that story about these residents, staying, trendy in today's world and learning how to Gangnam style dance, and we got some great television and newspaper coverage for them just because we were hopping on the bandwagon of what was kind of in the news today. So when you're doing your PR plan, think about strategy, and community relations is another part of that in addition to your marketing. Think about those social influencers who are out there. How about your Chamber of Commerce folks? They're aware of your program, or if they're not, connect with them on Facebook or reach out to them, as Travis was talking about with community relations. How about connecting online with your Alzheimer's Association or maybe the local healthcare reporter? Keeping them informed and getting on their radar screen ultimately helps overall. The idea is positive community content gets interaction from reporters and social influencers and your business partners, other senior living advocates, the family members. The more people that view and read about this stuff, the more they're going to share and comment and get the word out for you all. Community partnerships are really important also, and if you have activities for adult day services, the National Week, the 13th through the 19th, think about how you could utilize those partnerships to bring people in. Maybe it's inviting the mayor to participate in some sort of an event, or the chairman of the board of the local hospital, or the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association. How can you get those people involved as another hook to get coverage and awareness for your organization? It's all about you, your business community, and it says future residents here. They're not necessarily residents, but they're daytime residents, so to speak. So they're participants in your program, and if you can get everybody involved, that's really all part of it. You really start by identifying who are those potential partners, building relationships and trust. If it's online, read what's being said, comment, engage, get people informed about what's going on, and then share that message over and over. So, if you connect all those dots, it's identifying your key events or activities, media relations, utilizing your channels, reaching out to the community and getting them involved, and hopefully you will see some results as a part of that. And at this point, I guess we will open it up for some questions.
The conference has been unmuted.
Don't be shy. Go ahead and ask any questions you have.
This is Ned Morgans. Was kind of wondering what kind of what have been some of the more effective marketing strategies we've seen about promoting events and getting the word out and really making use of those community events? Because we do a lot of community events, but we haven't necessarily seen a lot of direct. It's hard to track where our inquiries are coming from, but we're not necessarily seeing a lot of folks coming from these events.
Sure. There's a couple different options in regards to successful, and it sounds like you're talking about direct mail type pieces out to your audience, correct?
Excuse me?
And you're speaking more of like the direct mail type pieces or mailers you're sending out?
We send out, we're basically just advertising in the newspaper, sure. And we'll do our events at like a restaurant, and then we get a decent number of folks, anywhere from 15 to 25 folks that'll come out. But then in terms of seeing a connection between who's coming out and then who's actually making it into the center as an inquiry, as a prospect, we're not necessarily being able to connect those dots very effectively.
Sure, and it's good to go off site like you've done. You've said you've gone out to restaurants, help things. It's also great then to get make sure you have the information of those attendees, and then follow up with them with a personal invite onto your community. Maybe it's a handwritten envelope with a card in there, inviting them on site. Sometimes that personal touch of seeing something in the mail and the appreciation of them coming out off site to an event and getting to know them really strikes a chord, and they're willing to come on site. I also wouldn't forget about those people that maybe didn't attend. So if you're promoting an event that's a little more social, and you have people that don't attend, then go back to that same group of people, but this time with maybe an educational event, because maybe that's not their thing. Maybe they don't mind. They're not into the social side of events and getting together. Maybe they're more the type that wants to go and learn and ask questions in a Q&A type format. So, one thing we find is having a good balance of social and educational style events to help engage with people. Tracking, making sure you're tracking if it's something where you're collecting RSVPs via phone calls. And you have a couple different things out there in the market, from newspaper to flyers to pieces you put in the mail. It's hard to understand, did that person come from this or the person come from that? Being able to accurately source where those leads come from is important, because then that gives you an idea where should we be investing our dollars. And then always give an option. If you're doing an event, give them an option to say, politely that they can't go, but they still want to engage with their community, because sometimes those dates just don't work. So give an option to say, sorry, I can't attend, but I'd like to get some more information. So sometimes giving those options can really help in response. And like I said, follow-up is key. You meet them, off-site at an event, invite them back in with something that's a little more of a personal touch, and sometimes that does a really, really good job.
Okay. Have you guys seen do you guys have a recommendation of some good, CRM or tracking kind of systems?
There's so many out there. We can certainly, offline put you in touch with our Senior VP of CRM and Strategy. It's a different fit for everyone depending on your database size and what your needs are. I can name 5 or 6 that are great options, but that's a little more tailored as far as need-based, because the market has just been flooded with these different platforms.
Right. Okay.
Are there other questions?
Well, let me ask another one. Which, besides Facebook, I think you said Facebook and LinkedIn, are those the 2 main ones that you would recommend really doing a lot with, or?
Yeah, I always kind of am of the notion that, pick 1 or 2 and then do them right, as opposed to trying to keep up with so many.
Right.
And because we know adult children are really all over Facebook, and probably the biggest growing demographic on there, that 45-plus crowd, even the 55-plus crowd, that's a great way to reach them. And, in doing so, you are also able to then, go on to Facebook Insights and look at the analytics and find out how many people are you gaining in terms of the number of likes, how many people are looking at what you put out there, how many people are engaging. And you can even look at, statistics like at what time of day are you getting the most response on things, and then start to tailor your strategy on posting messages at the time when people are really out there and looking at their Facebook, as opposed to posting something every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. and nobody really looks at it until 7 p.m., then, it's going to get lost on the wall. So Facebook for sure. I think LinkedIn from a kind of professional aspect makes perfect sense just simply because that's where those business professionals are. And, it's hitting them with a message that they might not even think about in that professional world and some service that they really may need and haven't thought about.
Okay.
We have a couple more minutes for questions.
Yes, this is Dominique. I have a question. You mentioned earlier that to reach out to the media and especially local media in the area of the daycare. Which way do you consider to be the best way of reaching out and making a list of all those institutions in the area?
Sure. What we have discovered over the course of time, we utilize a software program where we're able to look at what are the preferences for different media in different markets on how they like to be communicated with. And I would say by far the best way to communicate with the media on initial outreach is through email. And so you can go online to your local newspaper, and most of those are going to list the name of the staff and what position they hold, if they're the business writer or if they are the education writer or the healthcare writer, along those lines. So go online, look at, those TV stations or those publications or magazines, and then, just start creating your list, and hopefully you can get their email address online too. Most reporters like to be communicated with that way. And so once you draft that news release or that media pitch and send it in their direction, then you can follow up a day or two later just to kind of find out or gauge their interest. But that initial outreach should most likely be via email as opposed to a phone call.
Thank you.
I have a question about, did you mention newsletters at all, about how effectively you could use those, monthly newsletters?
We didn't speak to that. That's certainly an option. One of the biggest things is content. Content can be king. So it's important, when it comes to newsletters is that, I find the most, I've been involved with a lot of newsletters, and I find the most effective ones is they don't give all the information you think of a newsletter maybe in the traditional sense, like a printed piece of paper that's either 4 pages, 8 pages, 12 pages long, and then people have begun using, obviously, over the many years, that the same newsletter type format but in email form. And what I've found is that, if you're going to do a newsletter through email, it's important to make sure you have somewhere where you can house all those stories and information on your site, whether it's under a news section or what have you, because you see a lot higher engagement if you're only giving them kind of a appetizer, if you will, I guess, of each story within the email. Email isn't really meant to be used in long form. I think I just read this morning that people see on average, at least 100 emails a day. So one of the things is you put a lot of time and effort into email newsletters, and they can be very valuable, but they can help by including that information on your site and then using it almost as little highlights where then they can read more on your website, because you don't want them just to get the email, read it within their email, and then never engage with your community or your website. So they can work really well. I think it's a great idea. Where sometimes they can fall flat is that execution. So first make sure you have somewhere where that content can live on your site. Plus, if you're doing something with search engine marketing, having that extra content on your site is only going to help you. So you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone in that sense. So it's an idea that can certainly work.
The other part about that too, Jackie, just to toss in there is, any outreach that you do or any news releases that are developed on the public relations side could certainly be repurposed for that newsletter for Facebook content also. And so you're getting more bang for your time and effort on that regard too.
Thank you.
I agree. I know that this is probably a little bit different, but Randy, on your Facebook page, you all have some living documents that are out there that are just superb in terms of real snapshots of how to actualize a certain piece of the social media process and all kinds of great tips out there. Would you mind sharing where they should go for accessing that information?
Oh, sure. We have a blog that we put new content on twice a week, and if you were to go to GlynnDevins.com, and you could find the link to our blog on that, and just within that blog, then search for social media tips. Whether there's marketing tips there, just kind of peruse through it if you would like to. Or another way to hit it directly is blog.GlynnDevins.com. And I just threw up on the screen also, my email address and Travis's email address. And so, if anyone else perhaps has a question or something along those lines, please feel free to email us. And if we can, answer that question, that's great. Or, can point you in the right direction if possible.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, everyone, for your time, and certainly Randy and Travis, it was a pleasure having you join us today. If you have any questions, their information is there posted. For those who may have already signed off but still on the audio portion, Randy can be emailed at reilts@GlynnDevins.com and Travis at tbridges@GlynnDevins.com. Well, without further ado, I bid you all a wonderful holiday weekend.
Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.